triggered. Birds of a feather. Increasingly the case, there are people who take and find offence where none actually exists. Often this is done by my kind, because by generating a brouhaha, it enables the narcissist to seek to assert control over a relevant individual and draw fuel from them. In some instances, they may even seek some form of compensation, which amounts to a residual benefit. Increasingly, however, there are individuals who are not necessarily narcissists who engage in jumping on this bandwagon. They end up, because of the birds of a feather mentality, following in the footsteps of narcissists who essentially decree, I am allowed to criticize you for this view that you possess, but you're not allowed to advance your own view. I have freedom of speech to talk about what I want in terms of criticizing you, but I'm not going to exercise the same courtesy to you to allow you to utilize the freedom of speech to express yourself in the first place. I am allowed my opinion, you are not allowed yours. And if you suggest that I am out of order for taking this stance, then you know what comes next. The cry that you're a racist, that you're a hater, that you are transphobic, whatever it might be. Individuals who are perfectly entitled to express a view find themselves repeatedly shouted down by either my kind or those that follow in their footsteps, that have adopted this ridiculous mentality operating on a birds of a feather basis, the herd mentality. So often we have seen someone express a view, and then there are calls for them to be cancelled. They're labelled as a hater, they're described as a racist, they are a gay hater, or they're transphobic, or whatever minority they happen to have spoken about is deemed that they hate it. They are not allowed, of course, to express their view. Oh no, they are not allowed to put forward their own opinion. Goodness me, no matter how well-founded that view might be, no matter how much it is based in evidence rather than invariably the speculative nonsense that is espoused by these contradictory individuals in the first place. No, your view is dismissed. You're not allowed to advance it. Central to this is the ability to find offence where none ought to exist. That the simplest of things is now viewed through a lens of, that's inappropriate, that's awful, and to then claim that you have been triggered. Oh, yes. This is why so many accusations of snowflakism originated, that people yell, "Ooh, I'm triggered." Those that dealt with the Second World War and everything that it provided must really be shaking their heads. Of course, there is an argument for individuals to want a more tolerant society. One can understand that, even one such as I, without emotional empathy, understand the intellectual concept of why people require that. But what they do is they go too far. They seek to outlaw any contrary opinion to their own. Often these individuals don't necessarily have any skin in the game as well. They're the professionally offended. In this instance, however, we have an individual who is the Duchess of Sussex photographer, Misan Harriman, and he's perfectly entitled to express a view about these circumstances, and in the same way, I and plenty of other people are allowed to express a view and opinion about his response and label it ridiculous. It's also the case that one can understand precisely why Harry's wife selects this individual as a photographer. It's birds of a feather. More wokeism, more, oh, you've offended me by doing something which is contrary to my skin colour, therefore I will label you a racist. What am I referring to? Well, a high street shop in Surrey that sells tobacco has now removed an incredibly triggering, not just triggering, incredibly triggering image of a plantation after it faced allegations of racism. Farrants in Cobham came under fire after Misan Harriman, the photographer who took the Duchess of Sussex's second pregnancy pictures, said he was left speechless, although you'll actually find that he's not, because he actually has plenty to say about it, so he's contradicted himself straight away, after spotting the image behind the counter in the newsagent Farrants in Cobham. The blown-up image, which has now been removed, covered a wall behind a cash desk and include the words, "We sell tobacco," while appearing to show black people working on a tobacco plantation overseen by white men. Now, pausing there. Black men did work on a tobacco plantation. Some were slaves. They were overseen by white men. That is an historical fact. It happened. The shop has now apologised on Instagram for any and all distress the image caused. Misan Harriman placed on X, "I just went to Cobham to get my kids some toys and went into a shop called Farrants Cobham. There is a massive picture that is pride of place at the point of payment. It is an image of black men, broken black men, at a tobacco plantation with their overseers next to them. I kid you not. This is in a family store. This imagery is massive, triggering, and racist. And there is no conceivable reason it should be there. I'm so thankful I wasn't with my girls. How on earth could anyone have shopped there and found that image acceptable? This is exhausting and damaging to many people." Well, quite the reaction there. It's exhausting. It's massively triggering. Terribly triggering. Now, he is entitled, of course, to have a reaction to what he sees, just as everybody else is entitled to gauge that reaction to determine whether they deem that it is appropriate. In my view, his reaction is commensurate with the kind of nonsense that Harry's wife engages in finding fault where none exists, finding offence where none ought to exist, and making a big song and dance about something unnecessarily. The shop responded with, "We will keep this brief. The image that has caused offence has been removed. We apologise unreservedly for any and all distress that it caused." Posts about the image on social media by the Nigerian-born British photographer and social activist, who is also an ambassador of Save the Children UK, have been shared thousands of times since Tuesday. Mr. Harriman posted screenshots of the shop's apology on X, formerly Twitter, alongside a tweet from Surrey Police. I mean, seriously, confirming that the image has been taken down. Surrey Police tweeted, "We are aware of the commentary surrounding an image at Farrants newsagents in Cobham. While no formal reports have been made to police, we have spoken with the shop's manager and we've been informed that they've removed the image and issued an apology on Instagram." It was later revealed that Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, the former Netherlands and Chelsea football player, had complained in 2020 about the same image in Farrants, which was founded in 1989 and has a specialist tobacco room selling cigars and accessories. Mr. Hasselbank said on Instagram that he had complained to the store's owner, David Worsfold, 3 years ago, and was told the store would replace the image. Mr. Worsfold told the Telegraph newspaper that the picture has been removed and he's personally apologised to Mr. Hasselbank, who came into the store on Wednesday, for not acting sooner. Mr. Harriman is known for his social activism and became one of the most widely shared photographers of the Black Lives Matter movement in 2020 after he went onto the streets of London to capture the protests. So, quite the reaction, and the shop has responded by removing it. The fact is, lots of bad things have happened in the past. But is it the case that people are triggered by them? No. The fact is that the image was said to be racist. I'm going to let you see the image shortly by posting the footage that Mr. Harriman placed upon his X account, so you can gauge it to see if it says shows broken men. To my mind, it simply shows working men in clean clothes. They don't look broken to me. And I suspect that he knew about the existence of this picture, and he went there with an agenda to cause trouble. Many of these individuals were not actually slaves. They were employees. You just have to look up the history of it. But does he want them to be erased? Does he not want people to remember that there were tobacco plantations, that these things happened? The fact is that his response is knee-jerk, over the top, and is seeking to cause a storm where none ought to exist. Perhaps he could have explained to the shop staff that he found it offensive and invited them to discuss the matter. But no, he has to run around with footage and place it on X, ensuring that the media pick up on it. There are photos of the past. They exist. They record history. And once again, this is the type of behaviour which is saying we must get rid of those photos. We must not remember that the past existed. The fact is that people will find offence in the slightest of things. Now, this isn't a declaration as to whether Mr. Harriman is a narcissist or not. I haven't assessed him. But it does show that it's understandable why the Duchess of Sussex has palled on with him, because this kind of attitude and response is commensurate with the way that she behaves also. Accordingly, I'm now going to let you see the footage, and you can gauge for yourself as to whether you think this is an offensive image or not, that it accords with causing triggering on a huge scale, that it shows broken men, and that it is entirely racist. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section.
I've just had the most sort of triggering thing. I just came in to try and get toys for my girls, and just saw the most incredibly triggering imagery. Sorry. Now, luckily, my children are not with me, but I've never. I'm walking out now. But this is supposed to be a family store that has imagery of, if not enslaved, definitely indentured workers with their white masters or overseers. This is a family store. I'm just walking out because I can't believe what I've just seen. You know, if the I'm a little speechless. I'm in Cobham, and I just went into a shop to try and get some things for my kids, and there's a huge image of what looks like a tobacco plantation with 4 broken men, black men that look like me, and they're white overseers, hugely at the place where you pay. So this shop in the middle of a Surrey high street thinks it's normal to have that type of imagery next to where I could go and buy toys for my children. 2023. I don't shock easy. I can't believe what I just saw.